Jack, what did you think, first of all, about the debate last night?
Well, Glenn, I watched the debate last night, and I thought it was interesting. I thought a lot of the candidates did well. I think some of the sub-tier candidates, were largely not present. I think some candidates phoned it in. But really, the biggest standout for me was how can we be in a situation where the front runner for the opposition in this party is about to be arrested for the fourth time in a row the next day, which is today. And they're up there, they're talking about planning a Sunday brunch in the middle of a Cat 5 hurricane. This was ridiculous to me, and I think the fact that it didn't dominate the discussion actually did a disservice to the people, because you would hear these candidates saying, oh, well, I'll fight back. Everyone says that. What are you actually going to do? Walk us through your steps to fix the situation that we're in, because, Glenn, the last time I came on here, I said that we are going through the fourth turning. Look what's happening over in Russia. They're assassinating the opposition, these rebels who try to come out on Putin, down in South Africa. Saudi Arabia just joined BRICS. They've just announced they're joining BRICS today. This is going on. We have a regime that's locking up political opponents at home, and I feel like these guys are debating like it's still the 1980s.
Yeah, I felt a lot of them were debating like the 1980s. I also thought it was interesting how few of them said if he's arrested, if they were going to, if they would still honor their pledge if he became the nominee. And very few of them would be willing to raise their hand. Only Vivek Ramaswamy raised his hand when he said, I'd pardon him because, we're going to move on from this. And if he's convicted, this whole thing is a sham, I'd pardon him. And others didn't say that. I think this is remarkable coming from the Republicans.
I think so. And also that was a moment where there was a quick moment, but even for the DeSantis supporters out there, take a look at that, because that Ron DeSantis looking around to see how other people reacted to the question before he decided to raise his hand, whether you want to call it fair or not, whether you want to call it a CNN gotcha-style question, I do agree that it was a gotcha-style question. However, that's the kind of stuff that leaves an indelible mark. Because when you have one candidate showing a decisive answer, another candidate who seems like he's hedging, like he's hesitating, like he's looking around to see what other people are doing, that's the kind of thing that a sort of like a low propensity, low impact, someone who's not paying attention to the news on a day-to-day news cycle, they're going to remember that. That's the kind of stuff that is very sticky. Those moments are incredibly sticky, and I do think that will stick with the governor.
So I think the problem with the Trump topics last night, I don't want to, at this point, dwell on the 2020 election. However, that being said, we do have to have a strong accounting, which the Republicans were the only ones that could do it, and they didn't really do it in any state. They didn't push to make sure that we're correcting all of the mistakes from the past or even finding the answers. So you've kind of blown that one, because now do we trust the next one or not? And I think just as important is what is happening to Donald Trump. There's no way any of this would be happening if Donald Trump decided not to run. But he's decided to run, and so they are going to put him in jail come hell or high water. And for the Republicans on stage last night and in Congress right now, for them not to be raising holy hell and cutting the budget of the FBI and the Justice Department until they stand up and give real answers, and we get to the bottom of this, it's shameful. And that you don't have to be a Trump supporter to believe that. Every American should believe that. Every American should be saying, wait a minute, no, what is happening here? And we want real answers. And you've been stonewalling on all of these things. You don't get a dime from us. And for the Republicans who control the House, which controls the purse strings, has got to be more than frustrating for Donald Trump and should be frustrating for every American.
Glenn, that's exactly right. And I think Fox News, quite frankly, did a huge disservice to the country by not making that front and center. Now I can understand if they're jilted and the fact that he didn't show up and they're upset about this. Get over it, right? If you're going to conduct a debate for the benefit of the American people, then you have to get over the Murdoch family's financial and political standing and actually show that you can be a forum for all Americans. And the fact of the matter remains that there are tens of millions of Americans that support Trump, and there's also tens of millions of Americans that support a fair process, that do not want to see a process where you've got prosecutors bringing these ridiculous indictments, novel legal theories, going after opponents. No, this is not what we do in the United States. We handle this at the ballot box. That's how we've always done things in the United States. And for Fox News to barely ask questions about it, to barely ask questions about election integrity, to barely bring up how we're going to conduct the election in 2024, which I don't think I heard any candidate really talk about this, ballot harvesting, drop boxes, any of these things.
Because the Republicans aren't doing it.
Geo-tracking.
The Republicans aren't doing anything about it. I mean, it is like they are determined to lose.
Well, that's perhaps a more sinister plan afoot there, and I certainly could understand why people may think that, because you need to be look, if you're going to be one of these mules that's coming up in the 2024 election, guess what? You need to hear someone on stage. I would love to hear one of these candidates, and even Trump hasn't even said this, say, I will institute real-time geo-tracking against every single drop box that's in any one of the target cities, Milwaukee, Phoenix, Maricopa County, and then Atlanta, Fulton County, real-time geo-tracking, that if your phone is near there, and we know these mules are all going to be tracked because that's how they have to check in with their 501c3s and the Zuckerbucks and the C4s. Guess what? Real-time geo-tracking. We're going to be following you as you go in and out. We're going to have James O'Keefe and an army of cameramen and hidden cameras, maybe even drone cameras all over the place. Where's any discussion of this? Because the way that Joe Biden was installed as president was through tactics. We're focused on strategy. We're focused on this big vision, how things are going to happen when we get into office. Great. But you have to actually prove that Democrats understand they can't win on strategy. They can't win on their political messaging. They fail every time. How did they win? They won on tactics. They changed fundamentally the way that elections are held in this country. They've changed us from a system of voting on election day to a system whereby in who collects the most ballots is able to install their own president. And if Republicans have not woken up to that new reality, I don't see how they win any election going forward.
So, Jack, what do you think of, Trump is going to turn himself in today. There's this meme that's going around of all of the lawyers, Donald Trump's attorneys, and their mugshot in Atlanta. And it's despicable. Where is John Adams? Where's the spirit of John Adams? Wait, we're now arresting attorneys? Are you kidding me? So he's going in today. One of the thoughts that we had last night was his attorneys must be happy that he wasn't at the debate stage yesterday, because anything he says can be used against him now in a court of law, and they'll use anything against him. How is this going to play with him going down and having a mugshot?
I think this is going to be the mugshot that's heard around the world. I think they said that the mugshot that has the most sales in terms of T-shirts and other merchandise is Bob Dylan. Elvis Presley's got one out there. I think this is going to be the number one best-selling mugshot in American history when this thing comes out. Because remember, and I say this for educational purposes only, but mugshots are a government document, public document, which means they cannot be copyrighted. I say this for educational purposes only. But in all seriousness, we know Americans, we love an underdog story. Americans are the story of rebels, the story of people who left behind the old world and were willing to break rules to make something new. We have this in our DNA because we're all descended from people who left the old world and came here. That is indelible to the American character. To your point with John Adams, we are the people that decided that to create something new and provide a new vision, we've had to break a few rules along the way. You can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. I think this is absolutely going to backfire on them. I think it will be seen not only just by Trump supporters, but by independents, maybe even people on the left, RFK supporters, the former Bernie bros, etc. This is too far. It's just too far. It's too far. It's too much. It's completely unprecedented. And to see a president of the United States, regardless of if it's Donald Trump or not, this will be something that goes. Glenn, this is a historic day. This is an absolutely historic day. A president of the United States fingerprinted, mugshotted for the entire world to see. I think the backlash will be swift and it will be deafening.
I want to play something for you, and then I'm going to break for a minute and get your take on it. This is Tucker with Trump last night, cut 4.
I'm looking at the trajectory since 2015 when you got into politics, for real, and then won. It started with protests against you, massive protests, organized protests by the left, and then it moved to impeachment twice, and now indictment. I mean, the next stage is violence. Are you worried that they're going to try and kill you? Why wouldn't they try and kill you, honestly?
They're savage animals. They are people that are sick, really sick. You have great people in the Democrat Party. You have great people that are Democrats. Most of the people in our country are fantastic, and I'm representing everybody. I'm not just Republicans or conservatives. I represent everybody. I'm the president of everybody. But I've seen what they do. I've seen the lengths that they go to. When they make up the Russia, when that's exposed and they go down, and Barr should have gone after them, and other people should have gone after, and they did very late because the Durham report came out. It was fairly good. It could have been a lot tougher, I guess, but it was fairly good.
So the question even being asked, a serious question, why wouldn't they just kill you, to a former president of the United States, really speaks volumes of where we're at. Jack, what I want to know from you in a minute is what happens if he actually goes to jail? What did you think of that question, and what happens, Jack, if we see this president actually go to jail?
Look, Glenn, they're talking about putting this guy, this avatar, the voice of the people, the voice of tens of millions of people that have been crying out, the same people that just turned Richmond, north of Richmond, into the number one song on it's on Billboard, it's on iTunes, etc. These people are angry. Okay, these people are very, very upset. And if you take away this Trump as not just a person, but the symbol of what Trump represents, this ability to fight back, this ability of somebody from, who sort of was part of that ruling class that came down and said, you know what, everything that you believe that's going on behind those closed doors, it's 10 times worse. Mm-hmm. And how do I know? Because I was in on it. Mm-hmm. But you know what? I want to do something for you. That's why people support Trump. That's it. It's as simple as that. And if they go to strip him from the ballot, as they've already publicly said hundreds of times at this point, they want to strip him from the ballot in all 50 states. Gavin Newsom has already taken steps to do so in California, which would obviously set up a constitutional crisis. They're talking about putting him in jail. I talked about this on Human Events the other day. I think it would blow this country apart, Glenn. I really do think it would blow this country apart.
If Donald Trump did the Martin Luther King or Gandhi approach and said, you can be out in the streets, but I want you to be peaceful and peaceful vigils. If it was spun that way, he could change the world and change America in a positive direction. I don't know how many, FBI psyops and everything else would happen at the same time to cause the violence, but they desperately need the violence. And if he played it completely differently than what they would expect, it could change things rapidly. But if we don't have that spirit among us, you're right. As he said last night, it's a very dangerous thing what's happening right now, and you don't want to see when you put anger and frustration and hunger and all of this out onto the streets. It's not a good thing.
No, Glenn.
Go ahead.
We're hurtling towards America is parallel to the Weimar Republic right now, as you and I spoke about the last time I was on. You look at where credit card debt is the highest in American history at $1 trillion. Topping $1 trillion, mortgages going through the roof, interest rates going up like crazy. When the people get hungry, the people get angry. And I think you're right. I would love to see this call for a peaceful, nonviolent response. Sing the Oliver Anthony songs, hold prayer vigils, hold prayer sit-ins, etc. But at the same time, Glenn, we know that the FBI, the operations, inciting riots the same way they did on January 6th to prevent hearing of a debate on January 6th, which is the entire point of why people were traveling to D.C. was to hear this debate within the well of the Senate that never took place. I think you would see all of that and more. PSYOPs on PSYOPs on PSYOPs, all of which would be blamed on Trump, which would be blamed on the American people, probably blamed on Russia and a bevy of other foreign actors, and they would use it to start throwing all the leaders of this movement into the gulag right next to Trump.
Yeah, I agree with you. But that's what they did to Martin Luther King as well, and in the end, he won. He wasn't around to see it, but he did win. Thank you so much, Jack. I appreciate it.